Welcome to Season 9 of a Vietnam podcast, sharing the stories of people connected to Vietnam. My name is Niall Mackay. I've been living in Vietnam since 2016 and I've been hosting this podcast since 2019. I wanted to know more about the people that are connected to Vietnam and share their stories, whether they're Vietnamese or foreigners or VQ. Now my guest today, he's an American. He's from Washington, DC, who served in the Air Force for 10 years and he's been in Vietnam for 3.5. He has the Vietnamese nickname Do Bro. He organises video game tournaments and may soon be appearing on TV if he gets his wish here in Vietnam. So today we're going to talk about why he wants to be on TV, because he's one of the few expats who's learning Vietnamese full time. We're also going to talk about his military background, trying to start a business in Vietnam, and learning to enjoy being unproductive. My guest today is Markeiz Ryan. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that nice introduction. You make me feel good about sitting on my couch and scratching myself for 3 hours prior to coming here.
Well, what does that mean, learning to enjoy being unproductive? Because I actually need to do that. I can't do that.
It's very, very difficult. I talked to a therapist. It's actually really good, the best ever. I had a therapist in the military, and they were just just take some pain pills and just take every day at a time. Remember to practice your breathing. Okay, goodbye. Because it's free, so you're not going to get the best care, but this guy was a mind reader. So he told me that, being unproductive isn't the worst thing ever. And a lot of people, they see their goals, they see these motivational speakers on YouTube, and they're like, oh man, I need to get that 6-pack abs. I really need to get my business up. So I'm just trying to learn how to, not always go 100%. Just relax, enjoy life.
And what have been some of the tips then that they've given you to do that?
Right. He said to, wake up in the morning and...
Well, everybody's going to do that.
Yeah, well, some people. Well, he says, just wake up in the morning, don't stare at your phone, and don't look at all those other motivational people. Don't go straight into the YouTube thing. Just kind of do your own routine, look in the mirror and say, hey, I'm doing good. Think about the good things that you're doing and try to know what you're grateful for, and just be happy to be you. I totally forgot what he told me, but I'm living it.
No, that's great. Recently I heard Connor Kelly talk about it on a podcast. He's the host of the Comeback Show, talks a lot about mental health issues. And one of the things I really took from what he said was just make your bed every morning. And I actually do that. And I feel I'm quite strong mentally. I don't know if I'm strong mentally. I'm lucky, very lucky. I don't have huge mental health issues. I get stressed like everyone. I have times I'm down, sad. Don't have huge mental health issues. And I don't want to put it all on this one thing, but just the fact that he said, if you are having mental health issues, just small things like making your bed every day can make a big difference. And I was like, that's pretty cool, because I do that automatically. And I do wonder how much that just helps, because I don't like the bed being unmade. It's like the first thing I do when I wake up, just tidy it up, make it nice.
Well, I was going to ask if you had a service department, but I'm assuming that you don't, because you make your own bed. That's good. That makes you a much better man than most people here.
It was quite funny. We went on holiday recently with my wife, and I didn't make the bed at all one day. She's like, why aren't you making the bed? You make it at home every day. And I'm like, because I'm on holiday.
You didn't realize your life is a job. I work hard to please you, babe. I'm doing my best. Just give me a day off.
But the learning to be unproductive is good. It's partly why, the opposite reason is partly why this podcast started, was because I was bold. So if you're a regular listener, I've told this story before. I was bold and I was like, what should I do with my time? Listen to podcasts. Had this stupid notion, podcasts can't be that difficult, can't take that long. Completely consumes my life. And it's, if you're not watching the video right now, you can see Markeiz is just pointing to all the equipment that I have here. So that was why I started. And I do sometimes, even still, especially in the beginning, when I was sitting up till 3 a.m, editing a podcast. And I was thinking to myself, well, what else would I be doing right now? I'd just be sitting scrolling Reddit or scrolling Instagram or something like that. But there is part of me that was kind of just wants to scroll Reddit and just relax and take some time off.
Right. Before quarantine, I was super busy with editing videos for my Saigon Flag football league that me and my friend Turner built from the ground. Actually, he did more of the building. I was doing more of the marketing and, getting people excited and bringing new people into the scene. And I realized I was eating 12 hours editing one video, and then boom, next week I got to do it again. And then I got to film it, and then I got to run around, and it was a lot of work. And then once I relinquished, when, the gods relinquished my duties, With COVID, I was just able to say, like, what do I want to do? And yeah, that was starting to learn Vietnamese and become extremely independent in Vietnam. I don't want to depend on somebody else to get me around or talk to the receptionist or do this or do that. I want to just be able to do it all by myself. And then that just morphed into, I want to become fluent. Like, I want to do this all the way. I want to be better than Mikachu. And I realized that I'll never be better than Mikachu. I'm sorry, Mika. But I wanted to do what Fukman was doing. He's really inspiration. And yeah, he is hilarious. And he just went in there, was like, I mean, now his Vietnamese is much better. But like, say 3 years ago when he started, he was just like using basic, just conversation starters. And he had no fear of being judged and stuff. So I kind of want to try that too. But I'm also scared of the fame.
Ooh. Well, let's jump back quickly then. So learning Vietnamese, then that was your lockdown project, was it?
Right. I went full in. Before lockdown, I was really putting in effort in quotation marks, but I realized that just taking a 1 hour class once a week was not going to get me anywhere. I was just losing money. And I try to tell a lot of other learners that you're losing money by just slacking off with it. You need to do it full time for a while. I mean, you don't need to. I mean, you can still try. But you need to be making this your main focus, because there are people, think about a 3-year-old baby. He doesn't say, I want to open up my ears and listen to English for 1 hour a week, and then after that I'm going to close my ears and not listen to any English at all. They're completely surrounded by it. Like, it's their entire life. They listen to it, they read it, they see it, and you need to take that mindset. So what I did was taking these 5 days a week classes, 2 hours a day, and it was just in the classroom, online, just banging them out. And it was really good, actually. Mikachu, she told me to do that when I was at my low point of inspiration, and then I'm like, boom, I'm back, baby. Thank you, Mika. So yeah, that is my advice to anyone.
See, this is the reason why I don't learn Vietnamese, is because it does take so much effort and time and money. I don't have those things, and so it's kind of like, people are like, oh, why don't you learn Vietnamese? Yeah, that's the reason. My reasons, anyone who's a regular listener, I talk about it a lot, so I try not to go on about it too much. But I never thought I was going to be here for this long. I thought it was going to be a year, then thought it was going to be 1 more year, then thought it was going to be 1 more year, then I thought we were going to be gone, then pandemic hit, suddenly it's 6 years. Plus, I teach English, so I don't have to learn Vietnamese. I'm joking on that. But it's true in terms of like the 6 years since we've been here. I think of the amount of English that is taught, and the level of English here has just increased steadily, which is the goal of the country. So at the same time, like, the English here is getting better and better, which de-incentivizes my need to learn English, because I live in the heart of Saigon. If I lived in the countryside, maybe different. That
is actually one of the biggest things that makes it hard to learn Vietnamese in Vietnam, is that when you start speaking Vietnamese, no matter how good you are, and that goes for anyone. I saw Phucman's videos, go in the middle of the street and start speaking Vietnamese to people, and you need to listen to their response so you can get better at that, that reaction, that muscle memory of like responding, and they will always respond in English, because it's just, like, they're trying to learn too, So I'm really good at speaking. Well, I think I'm good at speaking, but I'm not that good at listening, because I never need to. You never ever need to, So that's kind of like it's a double-edged sword, that they're getting really good at English. That's been the same for me since the beginning. I mean, it still makes me laugh when you probably have this as well. Even at the most basic level, you walk into convenience store and you're like, "Xin chào," and they go, "Hello." It's like, stop.
I'm like, we just swapped languages. I mean,
that's kind of just how you gotta go with it.
And it has been in the past when I have tried to speak even the tiniest bit. One, they normally can't understand me, so they just start speaking to me in English, and I'm like, fuck's sake.
What I wish I had was just like a full, of course I can never do this because it's a terrible thing to do, and it would never fit my size. But if I had a full body Vietnamese mask, it's arms, legs, face, and I can just walk to anywhere and speak Vietnamese, and then they maybe respond to me in Vietnamese. But I just have like this big sign on my face that like, hey, it's time to speak some English. And they will never ever speak Vietnamese to me.
At first, when you said mask, I just thought you meant like, the COVID masks is what we were in. You mean like a bodysuit, right?
It's bigger than that.
A full Vietnamese bodysuit.
I need that full Vietnamese bodysuit.
Anyone who's not watching the video right now, go watch the YouTube video. This guy is the size of a fucking bomb. He's huge. If you had a Vietnamese bodysuit on, one, yeah, probably pretty racist. Two, they would be just so confused, like, who is this guy? What is going on? And then very confused by your Vietnamese as well.
Yeah, it was just like... I would just immediately look like a villain on a video game.
Yeah.
Like the third boss. Every dog would bark at me
I would
on
love
sight.
to see that. I mean, you want to be on TV. I think that's your TV skit right there. Like, have someone record you just walking down.
Yeah, until Twitter gets a hold of it, then I'm done.
Yeah. Then you're cancelled, but then at least you'll be famous.
Right?
You don't want to be famous.
No, I mean, well, I don't want to be infamous, you know?
Yeah.
And also, if I'm having a really bad day, like I have a really resting bee face. If I'm in the gym, I'm focused. Everyone's like, "Ooh, Ryan, you're so serious today." But like, that's like my face when I'm focusing on something. But like, my neutral face is a smile. Unfortunately, because my bottom lip and my jaw is just so heavy, so I can't close my mouth. It's really uncomfortable to close my mouth. So if my teeth are always showing, they just assume that I'm happy and smiling, which has gotten me so many friendships.
That's good.
Yeah.
So we're gonna try something that I've done with Mika and with FolkMap, and if I remember correctly, I then played the clip on the podcast. So let's see if we can do it on this one. I'm gonna play their clip right now.
Em nắm với năm năm tròn 5 năm. No, actually, it's so messy. It's really hard.
Well,
It's not my best.
anh cầm 5 cái nạm trong 5 năm.
Now I'm going to get you to do what they did in Vietnamese, and this is something I used to do on stage regularly. I haven't done it in so long. I came up with this when I was working with my colleague and friend Lê. We were talking about Vietnamese and the tones and how difficult it is, and there's one word, well, probably several words, but one word with 7 different meanings based on the inflection. Okay, so we came up with a sentence using this word, 7 different meanings. So I'm going to tell you the word in English, and then you need to translate it into Vietnamese. Okay, let me see if I can remember it because it's been a while. There once was a man called Nam holding 5 mushrooms for 5 years, lying in bed.
Okay, well, I'm not nearly as good as Mika, so we're going to break that down sentence by sentence. Like, give me every comma. So there once was a man.
There once was a man.
So, ngày xưa, đó một người đàn ông. Oh, một nam.
There once was a man called Nam.
Tên Nam.
You got 2 Nams there, right? Man and Nam. Lying in bed. I forgot, I said it in the wrong order. Lying in bed.
Nam, Yun. I probably did that one wrong.
Holding 5 mushrooms.
I think that Mang, Nam.
For 5 years.
It was like, Cho, Nam.
Right, so put it all together. There was a man called Nam lying in bed holding 5 mushrooms for 5 years.
Oh my god, you're killing me.
You told me you were fluent in Vietnamese?
No, I'm trying to get there, my guy. So, đó một người đàn ông tên Nam. Anh ấy mang Nam. Trong khi anh ấy nằm trên giường. Jeez.
There you go. All right, good effort.
I tried. Let's call me a good old intermediate.
I think the 7 meanings, so Nam, N-A-M, depending on the inflection, can be, man, the name Nam. Mushroom is like num. Holding isn't one of those inflections.
There are so many words for the word holding. There's deo, there's nam.
That's right.
Mang is a lot.
In this sense,
carry.
it's Nam. Mushroom Nam. Lying, apparently?
Nam, it's like
Nam.
when you're, like if you're in a hospital bed.
Right. Very specific.
Yeah.
Nam, lying in bed for 5 years, and 5 is Nam.
Nam. Yeah.
So yeah, it's just so funny. I've had a student called Nam, and I'm like, hey, 5! And he looked at me like strangely, and then he just started laughing. He's like, I get you.
It's like nam.
Yeah. So that's my little Vietnamese joke. So I've not met too many people that have served in the military. You've been in the Air Force for 10 years. Now, the perception of someone in the military is not yourself, who's very jovial, friendly, funny, outgoing.
We're all like this.
Because I met you at J.K. Hobson's birthday party, and you were just a riot. And that's why I was like, honey, I'm going to get this guy on the podcast. He's funny as. And I recently also met someone from the Air Force as well, who serves in Korea. He I was going to say flies the Apache helicopters. And he was super cool. And it was because his girlfriend was super liberal. she was a military kid though as well. Like her dad was in the military, but she was super liberal, and she'd like converted him. So I was surprised when I first met him. He's like, I'm in the military. I was expecting for like, the whole MAGA outpost. And
you're thinking like
he was
Top Gun boy.
Yeah, and he was just like super cool. And he was like, she'd convinced him to become like almost like anti-gun, not anti-gun, but not like pro-gun. Like he was telling us about some of these guys in his unit. They've got, I can't remember the names of them, but he's like, yeah, they've got these guns. And they're like, it's for my home protection, but it can shoot through like 4 walls. He's like, if you shoot an intruder with this, you're going to shoot 4 of your neighbors at the same time. Like, this is not home protection.
That's the goal, honestly. Like, you can just kill 2 birds or humans with 1 stone or bullet. You know what I mean?
You think that's how they intend? Like, fuck my neighbors.
Yes.
If I ever have someone invade my home, I'm going to shoot him, and hopefully I'll take out a neighbor.
Honestly, you need to get a protractor and just like figure out the correct angle to shoot the intruder at. Like, oh, hold on a second, stand right there. Okay, I'll move over to the wall here.
Sorry for the snot there.
Oh yeah, you can edit that out.
So to go back to my question then. So you're not for me the stereotypical person in the military. Is that correct? Were you non-stereotypical, or there's lots of people like you? Why did you join the Air Force? Why were you in the military?
Honestly, I'm a bit of like a huge stereotype and not stereotypical at all. So yeah, the stereotype is just like a bunch of conservative meatheads. But the thing is, like, the military is sort of like how you saw Vietnam, and then when you got to Vietnam, you realized what Vietnam was like. Like, when you see Vietnam in a movie, like, from 30 years ago, you're just like, oh, okay, they're going to speak in broken English, and everything is, like, not high-tech. But when you get here, and the Wi-Fi is better than it was in Wyoming and Texas, and you're just like, where was I living at, you know? But in the military, everyone is so diverse, because it's like, all right, you just take a lot of people from different backgrounds, they're all 18, 19, 20, and you throw them and have one unified experience. And you're so busy talking about your unified experience, you don't talk about, your background. You don't talk about, like, your politics. You don't talk about, like, any of those things that would divide normal people, civilians, So it was completely crazy, like, the amount of different backgrounds that I met in the first week. Of course, in the first week, you're not allowed to even talk to each other, so you're just a bunch of robots. And it is weird. If you ever go back to American basic training, if you walk back and you visit, everyone's just like a bunch of worker bees. They don't talk, they don't look at you, they don't nod, they don't acknowledge your existence because they're so scared not to look up. Well, at least it was back in my day. Now they have cell phones, they're doing TikTok dances in their rooms. But back in my time, we were just like, but we're so busy doing our own thing, and then you just become brothers and sisters with the people around you. So then, like, a month would go by, and you're like, wait, you're gay? Oh, what, you're conservative? Oh, okay, you're black. But I mean, like...
Well, you only just found out you were black after a month.
Yes.
You're like, whoa, I
really traumatic experience.
See that.
They were totally clueless, like, what? But yeah, you connect on so many other things outside of your political background. And it's like, I think it's the best way to meet people. If everyone served in the military, then, oh my God, America would be like the most unified country. Because you'd realize, like, those guys are monsters, and we aren't monsters, and everyone is different because they were raised differently. Like, when I lived in Wyoming, oh my God, I was like, okay, maybe I do need a gun, because you're in the middle of nowhere, and, like, if you need help, then they're not coming. So I realized, like, okay, maybe I should buy a gun. But before this, when I was living in DC, I was like, there's no reason to have a gun. I've seen so much gun violence in my time. And you realize that both sides are going to think the other side's a monster, because they're like, why are they going to take this away from me? And why are they pushing all this when I don't experience it all? But different sides of America are completely different countries. So yeah, that's my spiel.
Well, there are many countries where you do have to serve in the military, right? Like Korea is one of them. But so I don't know if I'd call myself a pacifist. I don't like to label myself anything, but I'm generally a passive person. Don't believe in violence. Don't really see the need to be invading other countries and whatnot. But at the same time, I can also understand why it happens, when it happens for the right reasons. I can understand the benefits of the military, and when I see people that, they get that. There's a big thing right now about the college education being free, and people are like, well, I served in the military and I got it for free. And you're like, oh, cool, you got to go kill people for free education. But we won't get into all of that. But I see the benefit more than just getting a college education, getting a skill or a trade, learning, discipline, fitness. Military guy, obviously very fit. So I see the benefit from that side. But I'm obviously don't get the point of going and invading other countries and things like that.
It's like such a wide spectrum. The military is like so wide. So my job, I didn't have to strangle anybody in the ditch. Well, actually, you know what? One time I strangled my own coworker. but that's a whole different.
I just think this just.
No, I was deployed. We were deployed in Africa for 6 months, and oh my god, we get really angry at each other. But we're so close. You know, that's another weird thing about the military is like, you hate your coworkers so much, but you know more about your coworkers than your own family and your old friends. You know, it is crazy. Like, there's a guy I'm not gonna say his name. Didn't like him at all. This guy, John, I hate that guy, John. But I didn't like him at all. But bro, I knew everything about him. I knew about his girlfriend breaking up about him. I knew about his like dad dying. I knew about everything he went through that week. And like, you're just able to comfort people, even if you hate them. You know exactly what to say, and you know what to do to make them feel better. So that's why you get that brotherhood that you never ever. I still have never gotten anything like, you know, the brotherhood I had in Korea and in Africa, where we were just literally bunked up in a tent together or living in one big dormitory like together, and it is this completely different social experience.
And I can see that positive from the military as well. So that's why I find it very conflictive, because I generally at heart don't agree with it.
Right.
But I can understand it, and I see those benefits in that brotherhood and sisterhood, you know.
And it does give you a big depth. Like, you start thinking differently about your upbringing. I think I grew up thinking, I'm so unlucky. Like, you know, I was homeless for a little bit, and like financially things were looking bad. But then, you know, went to the military, and eventually I went to Africa, and then I saw what homelessness looks like out there, and it's a completely different beast. I mean, you might think, oh, homelessness in Vietnam, oh, it looks bad, but then there's a difference. Like, even actually in Korea 40 years ago, 50 years ago, during the Korean War, they made a dish called song tong soup, and it was literally just the trash of the American military, and they would just take our garbage and they'd stir it up and eat it as a meal, and they call it song tong soup, which is like American food just mixed up. And then now we did the same thing in Africa. Like, I didn't want to, but I was a cook in Africa. I worked in a lot of different jobs, mortuary, cook, fitness. It was really weird. But I was a cook in my Africa deployment, and we would take out the trash. And I was wondering, why did we keep the trash all separate by meal? You know, why couldn't we just dump all the food together? And when I took out the trash cans were empty, and the guy was just waiting for me to take out the trash, and he picked it out of my hands, and then he said, thank you so much. And it would just take all of our trash right over there to like the guard unit that was protecting us, and they would just eat our garbage. And I was like, oh, I'm over complaining about my air-conditioned tent. I'm complaining about my air-conditioned workspace, and there are people who are protecting us, and then they were eating our trash. I was just like, Jesus. So that definitely changed my I slept. I'm like, that definitely changed my perception on, you know, what, I don't know.
No, I mean,
gratefulness.
But this is the thing as well. So the stereotype of the military maybe is the guys, the meatheads, I think you use the phrase, at the front line, and you know, they're like killing people, strangling people, like you said. But then, you know, as you realise, I didn't realise when I was younger, but as you get older, you realise that someone was the chef, there's a lot, probably more support staff, right? They're just doing, I don't want to say menial tasks, I can't think of the proper word, but not doing frontline killing people, than actually going out and killing people, which they are still part of that machine that is, the end goal is to do that. I think the problem with the military is, in a sense, like for me, on this podcast, I just talk off the top of my head. I don't really think about things ahead of time. I understand why they're there. I understand why they're there for protection. I understand why countries need them. I think just the biggest problem is that, and especially with America over the last few years, when they always gone about, oh, we're protecting our freedom. We need freedom. And you're like, you guys are the one invading everyone else. No one's coming to America.
It's so complex. I mean, I'm biased, hugely biased. And of course, before and a little bit after the military, I'm like, oh, well, that was a big no deal. That was a no-no. But you realize, like, say, let's take it back a year or so when Afghanistan fell. To the Taliban, everyone was like, where were you guys at? This is terrible. I can't believe Biden let this happen. This is a shame. But it's like, it's what you guys wanted, right? Like, you know, and at the same time, I don't want to be out there either. And I didn't want to be in Korea during the whole Kim Jong-un, Trump, Twitter beef. That was crazy. Like, Kim Jong...
Tell us more about that.
Oh, man, it was fun. It was the funnest time of my life. The reason why I have a lot of nervous issues right now. Okay, so basically, Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un, was it Un?
One of them.
Yes, right. I mean, they were engaging in a lot of battles online, and Trump was just saying, like, yo, I got 26,000 troops ready to die in Osan Air Force Base. And I'm just like, sir, I am not trying to die for your likes. You know what I mean? Like, just to give people to double click. Like, I'm not trying to die for this, my guy. Come on, chill.
I don't remember that specific tweet, but oh my goodness, you guys reading that on there, like, that's hilarious. Excuse me, what?
But that's really what it was. And like every 2 weeks, you got a missile coming out of the air, and we're just like, and there's those alarms going off, and we're just like, okay, our alarm blew, we're ready to go. We gotta, like, you know, get ready for this. And it's like, oh, no death. Go back to work. No death. And then of course, we just go right to drinking, you know, because it's like, oh, my life almost ended. You're alive. Okay, drink. And it just turned into like this loop of just nervousness. Every time you hear an alarm, it's like, and we're learning about these missiles like on CNN. We're like looking at CNN, and it was like, wait, what? There's missiles in the air? Okay, we're not dead. Okay, cool. And it's just like, you're always nervous. You're always waiting for death to come. But I mean, it didn't, and you just start being grateful for life, and you start realizing what's important.
I've been to that DMZ. I've been to Korea, and then that line with North Korea, and yeah, it's crazy.
Yes, it's crazy, and it's crazy how chill they are about, you know, the impending death that can happen at any time. It's like, they're just playing. I'm like, yo, you could just die in 40 minutes. Like, it just takes 40 minutes. Like,
don't tell them that. You know, I couldn't believe it as well. I didn't really think about the geography of like South Korea. And for anyone listening who maybe hasn't looked at a map, look at a map. They're at the bottom of a peninsula. It's like, you guys are really vulnerable.
Right. And so we're just thinking, like, what if we really went America first? And if we said, okay, we're pulling out everywhere, you're going to see a lot of bloodshed, and it'll be like insane amounts. So, of course, it's bad that we have like an extremely crazy military around the world, but we like how it is here, you know? Like, I love BTS. They're great. I dance to their songs on my, what is that VR game? How am I forgetting it?
Just Dance? Or what is it?
No, it's Beat Saber. I love their songs on Beat Saber, and I would hate for us to pull out of South Korea instantly and just be like, oh, you're on your own. You know, it would just be a catastrophe.
So, just to get this clear, America is in Korea right now for BTS?
Yes. BTS Army and the military. You didn't see that blog. I guess you didn't see that post. But they're definitely good.
So what is the reaction here when you tell people that you have been in the military, especially the US military? So I know, just quick interjection before you answer my question, sorry. We've had AJ Miller on the podcast. If you haven't listened already, go back and listen to it. It's one of the most emotional episodes I've ever done, where she's a comedian and she's just one of the funniest people ever. I thought we were just going to have a bit of banter. And I didn't know her story at the time, and it turned out her dad had been in the Vietnam War and had died of Agent Orange-induced leukemia, and she looked after him, and she'd basically come to Vietnam to reconnect with his roots, and she had these dog tags, and she'd shown people them, and she'd just been welcomed with open arms, and she was really apprehensive of what would be the reaction when she tells people her dad, the way she describes her dad is he was a killer. I think she called him a murderer. And the first time she said it, I was like, wait, what? She's like, and then she explained he was in the military, and I was like, oh, okay, but that's how he described himself. But she just had an overwhelmingly positive reaction. So I don't want to answer the question for you, but what has been the reaction here when you tell people, because you're more recently in the US military?
It was odd to me. Like, I actually had all my military uniforms and stuff, and like, I had a military apron, which is my favorite apron for cooking. No, but I left it at home. I left it at my mom's house, and I was thinking, I can't bring this here. They're gonna throw me in a jail cell. But no, like, it was the complete opposite. And it's like, oh, whoa, tell me about it. It's really fun. But it's like, for a lot of other veterans here, like, I meet them, they immediately see my bald head and big shoulders, and like, yeah, you're one of us, aren't you, boy? And so I'm like, yeah. And they're just having a good old time. They don't have they love the country. They left America, and they came to Vietnam and said, I don't want to leave this place. And so they just stuck around. And they all know that it wasn't the American people. And it's the same, like, when I have Russian friends and they tell me about how hard their life is becoming because of the government intervention there. And it's like, it's not the people that were the problem. It was just the crazy policies at the time and like the paranoia. And yeah, I went to a hotel in Moyne, and it's owned by a Australian veteran that served in the Vietnam War, and he just never left. He loves it. Of course, he can't speak Vietnamese, but he never left. And he loves the place, and they don't give him any flack. I think 40.
See, the thing is, when I first got here, if I heard something like that, I'd be like, what an asshole, 40 years, he can't speak Vietnamese. Now I know that's gonna be me. Like, I'm gonna be that person.
This is a wormhole. Like, once you go in, you're stuck in here. You can't leave. I actually went to Belgium 2 months ago. And I realized I cannot leave Vietnam. I'm like, I'm never leaving this place again. I'm never paying more than $14 for a taco.
So this is the thing, right? And so, as I mentioned, any regular listener will know the story. We came here for 6 weeks, 6 years later, we're still here. And it's always been extended, we never planned it. Now finally at the time we're like, okay, I don't see myself leaving. I have massive challenges living here. I feel really bad. I get asked, oh, you must love it here. And I'm like, no, I hate it. But ask me in 10 minutes and I'll probably love it. Like, it's so up and down, especially at the moment. And sometimes my wife, she's like, Neil, you can't tell people you hate it here. He asked you, do you like it? And then you're like, no, I hate it. Like, she's like, be more nuanced. I was like, okay, I'll try and be more nuanced. So anyone listening, I don't hate it here all the time, but sometimes I do.
Yeah.
Anyone who's listened as well regularly will know recently I got robbed by a ladyboy. And when I tried to report it to the police, they wouldn't let me in the police station because I had shorts on. So I'm still bitter about that. I'm bitter about getting robbed. It's not a nice experience. I'm glad I was robbed via sexual assault and not a sharp weapon or a gun. That's a nice thing, I guess. But I'm still bitter about not being allowed to report a crime because I had shorts on in 40-degree heat at midday. So that's just a brief example. Then 3 days later, the police lost my wife's paperwork. Like, literally lost it. Not they wanted more money, they lost the paperwork. So, sorry, getting back to my point, it's up and down. But so I'm at the point now where I'm going to be here probably for a long time. And when my wife and I have sat down and talked about it, like, do we want to leave? And we've actually had a friend, same thing, been in Belgium, of all places recently, and we've had friends been all over the world, and some of them have come back to Vietnam and I can't handle not living here. So I'm trying to reconcile with the fact that it is challenging here. There are massive ups and downs. There's a cultural difference, there's a language barrier, there's things that drive you wild. But where else would I go? Like, I lived in New Zealand before here, and New Zealand to me is the best country in the world. Loved it there. But I'm not rushing to go back anytime soon. It's cold, it's far away, it's expensive is the problem as well. We got family in America right now, they're messaging being like, this is ridiculously expensive. Like, it's insane. So you just get into this lifestyle here where you're like, I don't think I'm leaving.
Right, I think that goes into like being happy with being unproductive. I think, say if you were in New Zealand, if you weren't in New York or Texas, you would have to be working your butt off, all day, trying to get money, making a new company to get more passive income, to do this and do that and do that, and like destroying your 20s and 30s so that you can enjoy your 60s, 70s. But once you get here and you realize, okay, I can just work and then hang out with my friends and then go to sleep and then wake up and do a hobby and then hang out with my friends again and go back to work and da-da-da, you're just like, okay, I can't go back to that 40-hour work week that I don't think humans were created to do.
No, of course not. Well, the other one is where we just had friends visit here from Singapore, and they were from the Netherlands, and when they went back, they were like, yeah, all their friends, they like make more money than they ever had before, because, they're older, blah, blah, blah. But all they do is they just get a nicer car and a bigger house, because all they do is spend time in their house or in their car on the way to work. And I was like, wow, yeah, that's so true, right? So, they live in Singapore, they got the same jobs as their friends back home. They're like, we go out 5 nights a week for dinner, we socialise, we're always, and I think very similar here in Saigon, like I'm out nearly every night of the week, either running one of my events or just out with friends. I have more energy than I've ever had in my life. I talked about this recently on the podcast, like I'm just so energetic, and it comes from this city, I think. And yeah, I don't want to go back to that lifestyle where I'm just working so I can get to work.
Right.
And then come home in my nice house with my big TV and what?
Well, when I first got here, I was a minimalist. I was doing really good at that. I was like, I want to put all my things into a trash bag. And if I don't pull it out the trash bag because I need it, then it's going to go in the trash. Yes, I'm cool. And I watched YouTube videos that told me to do it. But then I moved into Vietnam and I started buying comfortable things. And I realized that you become a slave to your things. You don't own your objects, your objects own you. To pay for that car, you need to work those hours. To pay for that couch, that TV, you got to work. And then to afford the things that you want to own, you need to be owned by the money system that, lets you buy them. And so, I mean, when I first got here, I'm like, sure, I'm not going to, spend a lot of money on things, but I started spending tons of money on stuff recently. But I realized it's all for a distraction. You know, distract yourself from life, you know, to make the day go by more comfortably. And once I stopped spending all my money on, you know, things, I realized that I could be happy and I don't need to work as much, so I don't need to be as productive as I used to be.
It's funny you brought up about the minimalism thing there, because I just saw two memes in the last day. One of them was, who are these people doing this minimalist thing? I like my stuff. And I was like, yeah, that's true, right? Like, I like my stuff. I don't want to be a minimalist. And then the other one was, this made me laugh. He's like, you know, all of us adults have that bag of cables that we carry about through our life and we never want to get rid of. Eventually, I was like, I'm getting rid of it. So I threw it away. And a week later, I needed one of those cables. And I have no idea where to buy it from.
That is tough. Like, that is the way it is. I think that's how they hold us down, man. You know, big government is holding us down with tiny cables that is everywhere, you know. I actually have, oh my God, I'm so dumb for this. It was because of COVID, okay? I moved into a bigger apartment. I was like, okay, yeah, bigger apartment, cool. Cheaper prices. So, now I have an entire room dedicated to stuff. I don't even sleep in a room. I don't use the room at all. It's just there for stuff. So I came from Minimalist Markeiz to...
Was that your Twitter handle?
Yeah.
Minimalist Markeiz.
Minimalist Markeiz, you know. I got minimalist views and likes on my post. But yeah, now I'm just swimming in stuff. And I don't know, do I want to give it all up? Like, nah.
No, I like my stuff.
I like my stuff,
Yeah.
man.
I got a storage unit in New Zealand that I pay like $150 a month for.
You're doing bad.
Just full of stuff. It's just got stuff.
That's not good, Niall.
Neil.
I like Niall better, man.
No, it's not a bad name, but it's just not my name.
It's just so good.
But yeah, I just got a locker, a storage unit full of stuff. But it's things like, you know, I've got old journals in there. It's got like paperwork, documents, things that like I'm not going to throw away. But also, you're rolling your eyes at me. I know. What am I ever going to do with them? Publish them one day? Maybe. I think when I wrote them, I thought, you know, I was a big Jack Kerouac fan when in my 20s. I even got his book, which is all his letters that he published. He was a prolific writer, and I'm like, yeah, that's going to be me. I'm going to be famous. One day someone's going to study my journals and be like, wow, on August 16th, 2019, no, it would have been 2009, Niall Mackay wrote this. Of course, that's never going to happen.
Right. They'll be like, wow, this man is very depressed.
yeah.
Put it in that
I
pile.
opened it one time, this was years and years ago, and I got to a random page. And at the time, I was living in Adelaide in South Australia. I was like a backpacker kind of, and like no money, no direction in life, didn't know what I was doing. But it's so funny, I talk about this quite often recently, how we romanticize the past and think about, oh, that was so amazing. My big example was when I lived in New York. It was literally, the reality of the situation was, it was the worst time of my life. I had like no money, I just got broken up by my girlfriend, I had no job, I had no idea what, I was eating onion and lettuce sandwiches. I was that poor.
Oh my God.
On white bread. It was so bad. But you asked me about New York, and I'm like, oh my God, I lived in New York. It was so much fun. I had the best time. I was living it. And I'm like, Neil, do you not remember that time you had onion and so I had this same thing with Australia. And when I opened my journal and read one page, and it was like how miserable I was walking about Adelaide, not knowing where I was in my life. And I'm like, oh fuck, I thought I had a really good time in Adelaide.
I think the thing is, when you are busy, you don't think about your life and what you're doing with it, so you're just kind of happier and you're in the moment. I think when I was younger in the military, it's like 50-hour work weeks, you're waking up at 4 in the morning, and you're just spending so much time just doing menial tasks, and you're just like, what am I doing with my life? I hate this, but you're having the best times of your life. Like, those memories are crazy and they're fun. And even though, like, when I talk to, like, that same therapist guy, I'm just like, well, tell me, like, what was traumatic? Like, what was going on? Immediately a big smile goes on my face. And I'm like, okay, so these dead bodies, right? So I have to see these dead bodies every day when I was working mortuary. But you realize, like, you know, the hardships is what makes life fun. Now my life has become very easy, very chill, and I can never, like, I can't be more bored. And of course, I'm trying to make myself busy and make myself a little bit more miserable by learning Vietnamese. But, like, I can't get that same satisfaction out of life when I don't have any, you know, what's it called? Not boundaries, but new goals, new challenges, you know, to accomplish. And it's not like my life depends on them. These are just challenges I created for myself.
It's 100% true. And it is, I'm trying to remember some famous quote. I don't need the famous quote, but just, 100%. There was before COVID and things like this, you know, I had quite a good job here. My wife had a good job. We had full benefits and salaries and holiday pay and all of this stuff. And life was good. It was so fun. And I remember saying to her, like, it's not going to stay like this, because I'm 40 now. I know I've lived long enough that like life goes up and down, and you have some times that are absolutely amazing, and you have some really difficult times as well. And pretty much since then, it's been difficult. It's been like really difficult with COVID, and that brought along, we both kind of lost our jobs and the difficulties just of COVID, and we're still recovering from that. But you've got to go through these difficult times, right? And then you will look back on them. Because when you get so comfortable, I remember saying that to her, I was like, we're so comfortable right now. You're not, that's right, that's what I was thinking. I was talking to a friend as well, and I was like, I'm not learning anything right now because I'm so comfortable. It's so easy right now. Everything in life is good, but I'm not learning. And as soon as it gets difficult, I look back on my life, anytime there's been difficult times in my life, it's when I've learned the most. So I do sometimes have to remind myself, even though life's been difficult for the last 3 years, it's probably I've learned so much.
Right, I think humans are built for problem solving. You know what I mean? Like evolution, you're just like, okay, I'm gonna need to make a wheel. Okay, how do I make this wheel go faster? Then out of nowhere, you have a Tesla, you know?
Yeah.
But now, as this human beings, are just like, oh, okay, so eat, sleep, internet.
Funny, because that's kind of our goal, isn't it? That's like what we want. It's just
this is what we wanted.
Easy life, like Wall-E, when we're just all in like one of those floating beds, just eating and what. But it's not actually what we want, is it? We want something more.
So you gotta go climb a mountain or something. You're gonna do the Tour de France.
You watch that guy? What's the one that Alex Honnold, where he climbed up like that cliff face with no equipment?
What?
Yeah, that's a documentary, Oscar-winning documentary. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. Alex Honnold, I'm sure his name was, climbed up this ridiculous cliff face with no equipment. And I'm just watching, going, why?
We always make fun of that midlife crisis man, you know, but that is us right now.
Yeah, move to Vietnam, right?
Move to Vietnam and get that really fast bike. But I mean, it's kind of like that. Just is a sign that you did well, you know. I mean, it's tough. I mean, I'm trying my best to like grasp it and like realize that okay, the fun, crazy, chaotic times are over. But I realize that most of the time humans create that chaos, and that leads to the depression and anxiety. You know, you have really good times, and we create that chaos. It's just like, oh, I don't want to get married and have 3 kids yet. No, you know, you got to make something bad happen. So you have motivation to really push forward. But I mean, it's just, if you find a way to be comfortable with being unproductive, then you make your life so much easier, save so much money, and you just don't have to go through these pitfalls. Unless if you invested your money in the last 6 months.
That's not how it goes. No, so quickly tell us about, you said you started a business as well. What's the business?
Right. Well, I tried to start a business, and multiple times. I have so many ideas. I have a whole Google Notes list of businesses that I wanted to start, and I get talked out of each and every one of them, man. I'm not going to say his name. But you realize that this is a difficult place to start a business because like the bottom line is a lot lower, and somebody can always do it better than you. They can always just live right above that stall and then copy everything you do and then make it better. And so, I mean, I guess it's part of like just fear and laziness, but I know I can probably succeed in it, but it's just always like that little bit, this is like holding me back. I don't know.
What are your ideas for a business without giving it away so that someone listening is going to copy it?
Well, this is the most realistic one, okay? I was going to be the guy that speaks Vietnamese really well and then does a Twitch and I just like yell at other people in Vietnamese, but I realized that it's really hard to find a Vietnamese server to yell at people in Vietnamese, you know? So every game is just like Singapore and they all know English, so it's the same problem. So it's hard to find that. I could yell at my friends, but no, they're just better at yelling in Vietnamese. The other idea, I wanted to do a little shop, because I mean, I'm a cook. I can basically do like the same kind of, we call it jungle cooking, where we just throw it all together, just throw sauce and everything and make everything taste good. And I'll just set up a little stand and I'll just speak Vietnamese on the side of the road and I'll just be selling stuff. And that would be funny. It would be different. It would be cool. And then I realized, you know what? I have enough money to not do anything at all. And I'm just going to stare at my screen.
See, that's a problem.
That's the problem, guy.
So let's finish up with the same questions that I ask everyone at the end of a Vietnam podcast. So what one reason would you use to persuade someone to come to Vietnam?
It's about, I think this is the best place to pursue your hobbies. Like out of any place, I realized that when I lived in America and Europe and Africa and the military, I never pursued my hobbies since I left high school. You know, like having that time to really look at yourself and like, what used to make me happy? And is it music? Is it this? Is it that? Is it that? And then you just start really getting good at it. And you really have a lot of time to cultivate skills, and you can use those skills to leave Vietnam and become worthwhile to someone.
Well, that's what this podcast is. I started it because I had so much time, and then now I produce podcasts for people around the world and make podcasts for people. But we've had this kind of similar answer before, and I do like to give a bit of a disclaimer that it is coming from a place of privilege, because we do interview Vietnamese people on here as well, and this podcast is for anyone. That answer, and it's not incorrect, and it's been given before, it just comes from such a place of privilege, because we know living in this country that there are so many people that don't have that opportunity to pursue their hobbies. There are plenty of people are, but then, there are also lots of people who don't. So
Right.
I just like to add that, because, I also maybe just spend too much online, but I always know there's someone listening going, but, what about all that? And
No, but they're
we know
completely
that.
right.
We know that though. We know. We're not completely ignorant.
And I guess living back in America, I felt like I was so unprivileged, and now I realize like I had like some big opportunities. But then I also see some of my friends now who've used, say, this area, Saigon, as a place that, hey, I can market myself to a demographic that will pay way more money online. So if I can find a career and work online, I can bring in those online dollars. Say I have a few friends that are making more money than me, and they're Vietnamese. Before we would hang out and I'd pay for their drinks and all that. Now he's living in like above me in Vin Homes, and he has a 3-bedroom. I'm like, but it's about finding a way to get money from these overseas people and bring it into your country and then live good.
Yeah, for sure. Now, next question: keeping balance. What one reason would you persuade someone not to come to Vietnam?
Not to come to Vietnam. I gotta say, like, the sexpats. Those guys are the worst. Absolute worst.
You think someone shouldn't come to Vietnam just because of the sexpats? Yeah.
Oh well, I mean, a lot of people say like, oh yeah, I can go. I mean, you can find a wife here that is great, and they're really nice, comfortable people and good. But you shouldn't come here with the expectation that they're all a monolith and they're all the same. They're all completely different. You're gonna get, you can't just come here just thinking that. You need to find, if you're looking for that, you should like look within yourself and figure out like, what am I lacking to push, that need.
I hope this answer is not related to that question. What's a common scam here in Vietnam?
Well, I heard those ladyboys that steal your wallet are pretty tough.
That is apparently it is a common scam. I didn't know that. So after it happened to me, as soon as I told people, they were like, oh yeah, the ladyboys that rob your phone.
Yeah, I did get my phone robbed, but I was so drunk I don't know who did it. Or I could have just dropped it. I have no idea. But it was on Boy Vin. Were you on Boy Vin?
No, around the corner from my house.
What?
Yeah.
Town Vin is different, man.
Yeah, but I've been here a few years. First time it ever happened. But as soon as I told people, they were like, it happened all over Saigon. One person told me they were literally walking into their doorway. They got out of a taxi, about to walk into the door, and similar thing, girl, ladyboy, pulled up on a bike, was like, hey, so what happened? She was like, do you want boom boom? And I was like, no. And then she grabbed me by the balls and she was like, do you want boom boom? And I was like, no, and like pushed her off. And then I went to she drove off on her bike, so I went to text my wife, be like, this fucking just happened, and my phone had gone. But after I told other people that, so many stories so that is a common scam here. So if someone comes up to you, another person said their friend got a massage, like they came up and like, oh, do you want a massage? And they like massaged them a bit, phone went, things like this. So that is a common scam.
So don't grab your jewels, grab your wallet.
Exactly.
It was something that could happen.
That's how they disarm you, right? Because obviously your natural reaction is going to be like, what are you doing? And
that is very smart.
I'm pretty impressed. I mean, you could do anything.
You really got to put yourself out there to do that.
Yeah, all right. Well, so what's a common scam that you know apart from that?
Common scam. I think this is my friend said. He lived here for about 4 years before I got here, and he said like, dude, I never got ripped off, and he looked at me getting ripped off twice on my way into Hanoi and then on my way out of Ho Chi Minh City. But I'd say first off, never take a driver that is not with Grab. Those guys will grab your phone and never let it go. What happened to me is when I first came to Hanoi, I took a ride from a bar. The guy's like, hey, come in, cheap fare. And I gave him the phone that had my address that I couldn't pronounce. And he held onto my phone. And then when I paid him and I got out the car, I'm like, oh, wait, he has my phone. And I said, hey, sir. And then like while my leg was still in the car, he drives like full speed off. So I spin and he drops me off, of course, in the middle of nowhere.
Oh.
And I had to walk home with no phone. Yeah, it's pretty tough. And also, of course, the airport thing, the whole visa thing is pretty tough. So when you get the wrong e-visa, you just go to this little jail cell. And well, I'm glad I got the discount rate because I immediately started, never mind, I did something stereotypical and they gave me a discount. But Luckily, they didn't think I had the money to afford the bribe, so I got a good barter deal on that. Yeah.
It's funny because, you know, and we talked about this just recently with someone. I kind of mentioned it earlier, you know, I got robbed by someone grabbing my balls rather than having a knife or a gun, right? And getting sexually assaulted is not technically better, but kind of is. It's a bit less violent. And so it is so safe here in Vietnam. We was just talking to someone this week about what it was like in Thailand and South Africa. They were talking about how dangerous it is, and it's just like, it's so safe here. But there's just this thing with scams. They just have these little scams, like, and it's not like big thing. Well, don't get me wrong. I think there probably is big scams. I just don't have enough money to be big scammed. But there's lots of these little scams that people run, like stealing your phone or overcharging you. And I don't think it really happens to me very often either. But I still got robbed.
I'm good at avoiding scams just by being huge. I have like zero problems anywhere. I am the danger, you know. I'm Walter White out here. People are scared of me until I start talking to them.
Well, kind of following on from that, what's something you hear about Vietnam that's not true?
I would say first off that I wouldn't, of course, this is coming from a place of privilege. I don't really leave District 1, Binh Thanh, or District 2 that much. But my perception of a third world country is different than what people call when they say Vietnam is a third world country. I'm like, once again, the Wi-Fi is really good here, and it's comfortable. It's not violent. I remember growing up in D.C., I would turn on the TV, and it'd be like, oh, shooting a blue high school, shooting here, shooting there. And then they go to commercial break, and then they'll be like, okay, well, more shootings. And you're just like, how many more shootings are they going to have? I've never felt scared for my life out here, you know? And when people think third world country, they're thinking like, ooh, bad, and this is like, you know, just trees or desert everywhere. Like, no, this is a very nice, comfortable place, and everyone is friendly, and it can get dangerous, but that's you asking for it. I remember the most dangerous thing I ever saw was like, I think it was like World Cup time or something. There's a bunch of drunk British guys in a bar in Hoi An, and they slapped the staff or something, and like 10 workers came out of nowhere and had cattle prods. You know, like the electricity thing they use on cows? I
got warned about that when I first came in. Vietnamese people love weapons, and I've seen it on online videos. They will grab anything and they will use it.
Right, but it's provoked.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, not unprovoked, like just walking about with weapons. It's normally something has escalated the situation, but yeah, they will grab anything.
Right, that's what I realized. Even though I'm really big, this is just like a defensive. This is me, I'm like the American military. All these nukes right here, I don't want to ever use them. And I hold them so that people never approach me. Because I don't know how to fight.
Self-deterrence.
You're right. Deterrence.
Now, what question would you ask another guest?
A question I ask another guest. So I would say, how would you make the most of your time here? Even when you become very comfortable and when life gets really nice, since you're an expat and you have that privilege, what will you do to make these years, days, months worth it? And how is it going to change your life for the better?
Wow. Okay.
Too deep?
I like that. That's really good. It's got me thinking now. And last question, if Vietnam was a person, how would you describe them?
All right, so if Vietnam was a person, I would say Vietnam is skinny for no reason because the food is so good.
And they eat so much rice. Like, how are you so small?
Yeah, and also I would say they're honest. A very honest person. Speaking of someone who's now able to listen and understand a lot of Vietnamese, and which is strange. I thought they'd be talking a lot behind my back, but I realized that they're not, and that was just me being in my own head. So a lot of people on Facebook blogs will say like, "Oh man, they're always talking bad about me on the elevator, but I don't understand it. But I kind of understand it." They're really not talking about you. They're just talking about like the wheels on the bus go round and round. The only time I ever got talked about.
We'll see you soon on VTV, hopefully, if you can make it, speaking fluent Vietnamese.
If this doesn't get me canceled, then hopefully I'll be up there.
Cheers.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to a Vietnam podcast by 7 Million Bikes. I want to give a massive thank you to all the members of the 7 Million Bikes community. This podcast wouldn't exist without your support. It means so much to me, and it keeps me going, and it keeps me producing episodes for you. If you are interested in joining the 7 Million Bikes community, the link is in the show notes. You'll get episodes early, you'll get free tickets to comedy shows and quiz nights, and you'll get invites to special member-only events. So if that's something you're interested in, check it out. It really means so much to have your support. We can't produce this show without it. So again, thank you so much to all of our guest hosts this season. Thank you so much to our guests. And thank you to you for listening. Enjoy season 9 of A Vietnam Podcast.